Hello everybody and welcome to today's video. My name is Rebecca Ravenbird and today I have yet another Procreate Speedpaint. This is a black and white study here. So a black and white study is it's a form of art in which you study the darkness and the lightness of a reference photo. So you saw that I actually did start this picture in color. I wanted to try turning it into a Star Stable logo, but I ended up turning it into a black and white study instead. So for the very beginning of this piece, like I said, I actually did start it in color because I wanted to try doing another color study at the very beginning, but then I said, you know what, let's do black and white. Let's really study how to make sure that all of the darkest points of the drawing of the reference photo are as dark as they possibly need to be, and then all of the lightest points, all of the highlights are as light as they need to be. So with this particular reference photo, I found this on Instagram. I find that actually a lot of the reference photos are actually a lot better, in my opinion, on Instagram than they are on Google. But Google does have a lot of good informational stuff. So like if you're looking for anatomy, if you're looking for confirmation or anything like that, you're going to find that on Google better than Instagram, in my opinion. Instagram kind of has more of like the really pretty aesthetic pictures. Google kind of has more of the information and things like that. So anyways, like I said, I found this on Instagram and I will credit the reference photo in the description of this video. But I am using the same pencil and using the same brushes that I used in the last video to color, but the line art, I actually used a different brush. I don't know if I mentioned it in my last video, but I did use a different brush for the line art. And I actually really liked the line art. Well, most of it. I didn't like all of it, but I really like how I did the line art. And I did actually trace the outline here. And I know I'm trying to do more research and seeing whether or not it's okay to trace or anything like that. The general consensus is that you actually shouldn't be tracing and posting the traced work online or anything like that. It's very controversial. I'm trying to form my own opinion on whether or not it's okay to trace anything. But really, the thing I was focusing on the most was getting the proper darkness and lightness of shadows and highlights and things like that. And that's what I was, focused on more rather than the proportions and the shape of everything, making sure that was correct, which it turned out fine. And yeah, I'm really proud of how I was able to actually get all of this shading done. Now, in the middle there, you might have seen a couple of colors flash onto the screen. I was actually trying to do gradient mapping. I still don't quite understand how gradient mapping works, so if you have any tips on how to use gradient mapping in Procreate, please let me know. I just did not understand how it worked, and I went back to, I wanted to use this black and white as like a base for color. So I wanted to get all of the values correct. I wanted to get all of the darkness and lightness correct, and then add the proper color on top through gradient mapping, but it didn't really seem to work out that well. So anyways, here we are continuing on the head here a little bit, and I basically, I got a little bit better at blocking in the general area for shadows and highlights and stuff like that, as you can see on the neck and the shoulder and the torso. Overall, I sort of enjoyed doing this piece. I sort of didn't enjoy doing this piece, and I think it was just because, I was so used to seeing all of the same colors the entire time. I was seeing the, shades of black and gray and white and things like that, and I got kind of bored of it. Versus the color picture is very vibrant. It's very nice, like red, chestnut, and deep browns, and a little bit of green in the background, I think. And I didn't add an actual background from the reference photo into this picture, into this painting, but that's what the original reference photo had, and I just didn't add it. So I guess I was a little bit bored of the color palette that I had here, but it really does help make sure that I'm I'm being accurate to the reference photo, making sure everything is dark enough and light enough, and everything in between, just falls into place properly. So another thing I want to talk about, and I don't think we're there yet in the video, but the mane of this horse. I had a hard time picking out what I wanted to do for this mane. Like I said, you'll see this later on in the video. But my problem was that I didn't want to do the braids. The reference photo, the horse in the reference photo has a braided mane, and I didn't want to do the braids. I really wanted to focus on like the shading of the face and the neck and the shoulder and stuff, and I didn't want to do the mane because I'm not very good at doing like horse hair yet. As you can see, I'm not even really good at like fully drawing it either, to be completely honest, because I traced the outline. But anyways, I didn't want to do the mane. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do a very long flowing mane. And I just could not get that to look right. I really struggled with getting the mane to look natural. And I was trying to experiment with different brushes. And like now was not the time to experiment with different brushes, in my opinion. Like I was, again, focusing, trying to get the values correct. And not necessarily the mane and tail. And well, there is no tail, but I wasn't focused on getting the mane that much. So you'll see me go back and forth between different hair brushes, different hair lengths and stuff like that. And I eventually decided, you know what, I am going to just use one of my hair stamp brushes that I got from, I don't remember where I got it from, but I will be sure to put a link to that hair stamp brush in the description of this video. But it's a braid stamp, basically, so it was a stamp, and then I added more stuff on top of it just because it didn't look quite full enough. It's a very nice stamp. It was a really nice base, basically. So I used that, and it actually turned out pretty well, just because, you know, the so much detail in the mane, it would have taken me a good amount of hours just to get the mane if I were to hand draw it myself. I actually did try hand drawing it myself, but I got so frustrated with how it looked that I ended up using a stamp brush. So is that cheating? Is that tracing? Is that heavy referencing? I don't know if that counts as anything towards cheating. But I think overall, hopefully now this being my second completed piece, I now know how to color a piece of horse art in the realism style. I know how to shade, I know how to blend and things like that. So my goal of learning how to color and learning how to use Procreate has been achieved at this point, now with my second piece of art being finished here. In a couple of future videos, I am starting to experiment with my style, and I'm using a couple of Wild Horse Island's Discord art competitions to try to develop a style and learn how to also be more efficient. So this piece and the last piece took me over 10 hours to complete. And while I think it's worth the time to do a piece in realism, I also think that I could have been more efficient with my time as well. So cutting down some of the processes that I need to complete the piece and just overall being a little bit faster, I think will help if I ever decide to open commissions or anything like that. Because if you're opening commissions and you're trying to be like a professional artist or something like that, time is money, and you need to be efficient. You need to, you know, deliver a product in a timely manner. But even though I'm not doing that right now, I still would like to be a little bit faster with making art, just because I am already quite busy with a lot of other things. I'm busy making videos. I'm busy trying to grind all of the games here that I'm trying to play, so like Star Stable and Wild Horse Islands, and I'm grinding a little bit of Adopt Me and stuff like that. So having the time to grind at those events, you know, I need the time for those as well. So here we actually are starting on doing the mane, and like I said, hopefully you can tell just how much of like going back and forth and decision making, and I have no idea what I'm doing with the mane. It doesn't look terrible, but it also in some places it just doesn't look completely natural, and I'm like going back and forth, I'm deleting stuff, I'm changing the style and all of that fun stuff. So here's where I start to use the stamp brush and add my own hair textures to it. So what I had to do is I actually had to make this the mane on a separate layer, and then I merged the layers, because what I had to do is I had to merge some of the hairs from the neck onto the braids. And to make that look natural, I actually started off by just making the braids their own layer, and then adding my own details onto the braid stamp, and then merging it with the neck. So yeah, I'm not quite sure why I blacked out the screen here. I think it's because I was hiding a bunch of layers and stuff, including the background layer. So here is where I tried to hand draw the mane and it still didn't look right. So it was just a fun time, and I mean that with sarcasm. I did not have a fun time doing the mane, but at least I was able to get it, roughly correct and, roughly accurate enough where, it looked like a braid. Here we go, we're going back to trying a longer mane style, but then in addition to, using the braid stamp, the other hairbrushes, if I were to put the long mane over the neck, that would pretty much just completely cover up all the hard work that I did on the neck itself, so I didn't really want to do that either. One other thing that I did while making this piece was that I actually live streamed this on a couple of Discord servers that I'm in. So I streamed it on the Unwind with JD server just as a little fun event because our server crashed. It's a Minecraft server, so our Minecraft server crashed and people were waiting for our server admin to bring it back up. And so I said, hey, why don't you guys come into a voice call and I'll stream and I'll show you guys my process of making this piece of art. And then I also did this with my club Emerald Hunters, and yeah, they had a lot of fun doing it, fun watching it. We got to hang out a little bit, so I'm not sure if I will ever do art live streams directly on YouTube. If I do, I'll have to kind of figure out how that works, but yeah, I thought it was fun to do those as well. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to a little bit more about my art process and how this piece was created. I hope one day I'll be able to get to a point where I don't have to trace the outline of a horse and focus on coloring it in. I hope to be able to create a whole piece of art completely from scratch, completely from reference, again, without any tracing. So I'm going to let the rest of this video play through and you guys can listen to some great music. I hope you enjoy it, and thank you so much for watching.